What's up? I'm Jake Bren with Bigger Than 12, joined by my co-host Derek Duke, where every Sunday we break down the Big 12 Conference.
We'll recap the full day in the Big 12 and look ahead to next week.
We talk a lot of Iowa State, but it's not just Cyclones. We go from Morgantown to Salt Lake City and everywhere in between. Be sure to check out Bigger Than 12 every Sunday here on Iowa Everywhere.
Bruns, Aiden Wyatt.
Breaking down everything from this week's Cyclone game. This is Cyclone Sunday,
Presented by Channel Seed.
and best enjoyed with a carbless premium handcrafted cocktail.
From the Channel Seed Studios,
This is Cyclone Sunday.
What is up? Welcome to Cyclone Sunday here on October 26th. He is Ben Bruns. I'm Aiden Wyatt. We are presented as always by Channel Seed here in the Channel Seed Studios on Iowa Everywhere. Iowa State falls to BYU 41-27 in kind of an odd game where the vibes were all over the place for this one. Bruns, how you feeling this morning?
You know, I really thought we were going to see a game between two really well-coached, disciplined teams that gave everything they had, and I think we saw that. And I think that BYU was just a little better for longer and forced Iowa State to get uncomfortable in a couple moments. And, you know, Aiden, one of the things that goes untalked about a lot is just how important your opponent's play is and how important your opponent's coaching is. And I think BYU made some great adjustments in that game. I think their players made some great plays in that game. And I think that was the difference in the outcome at the end of the day. And, you know, I didn't particularly enjoy the officiating in the second half. We'll get into that more in a little bit. But, well, actually, I didn't particularly enjoy the officiating overall, right? And there's a couple reasons why. We can get into that. But, you know, I just think Iowa State had lots of chances to win that game. And BYU made plays and made adjustments and, you know, did enough to win.
Yeah, they were really like 3 or 4 or 5 key plays that really just flipped this game on its head. Iowa State has a chance to go up 24-7, I think. And Rocco Beck has a pass that gets tipped at line of scrimmage and is, you know, kind of left out to dry, picked off. BYU ends up going and scoring. That was obviously a big one, but I think the biggest one came on special teams with 10 seconds left in the third quarter, give or take, and Iowa State finally forces a punt. It's not a great punt. It's a little wobbly. I think Iowa State's getting the ball back. And credit to BYU because this was not some accident. They had I can't remember who said it in the post game. One of their players said, "We were coached knowing that these guys will engage for blocks a little too long on punt returns, and they're susceptible to be blocked into a ball." Yeah, which
just drive them right into the ball, and that's what happened.
I don't know that it's Benny Igua's fault. I think it's kind of a bad luck thing, maybe, but obviously BYU was coached to do that, and they executed it perfectly on that play. And you know, that was a huge swing in the game, momentum and points.
Yeah, you're right. And you know, Iowa State also scores a touchdown, gets called back for Benjamin Bramer hold, and then doesn't score on that drive.
Yep.
You know, so that would have dramatic. That was with 8 minutes left. So you know, there's all sorts of plays in this game. I mean, I felt like the first half BYU got away with a number of holds. You know, Iowa State completely shut down BYU's running game, and that was a key to winning this game. LJ Martin goes out, doesn't come back. And, you know, Iowa State was having their way with the run. But, man, you know, credit BYU's offense and, you know, the freshman quarterback just making plays, right? That kid had some great throws. Bachman was really good.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was impressed with him. More poised, more effective throwing the football than I thought he would be. But you're right. Those plays that we just mentioned, you know, were huge plays. The pick six, another huge play in the game. And, you put those four things together. Iowa State had a bunch of moments where it was like, man, that didn't go our way. That didn't go our way. We still convert a fourth down and move the ball and have a chance to score. The dropped Aiden Flora touchdown throw, right? So, right there's five things you look at and you're like, this game should have been, inside of a score or Iowa State winning. The kickoff at the end of the first half that got a big kick return, set BYU up. Iowa State's out there with their second, with their twos in the secondary in a 2-minute drill, basically at the 40-yard line, and gets torched. And, that having it be a 7-point game at halftime, certainly, Iowa State dominated the first half of play. And for it to just be a 7-point game, BYU was very fortunate. But they made the plays in the second half. They made the adjustments. In the second half, the part I had a problem with was our receivers, might as well have saddles on, right? Like every single route downfield that BYU could get in position to do, they were holding, tugging, grabbing. And, why not, right? You got to get back in this game somehow. You got to challenge the officials to throw a flag every play. And the officials didn't. They threw one holding call on something that was totally egregious that actually got a first down and set up that opportunity for the drop that we mentioned before. But, Iowa State with some uncharacteristic, false start penalties from wide receivers. You just make it hard on yourself to be successful in that setting. But still, Iowa State ran the football better than I'd seen. I think I can't remember. There were guys in the box everywhere, Aiden, and I'm watching the O-line, right? And they dominated the line of scrimmage with Carson Hansen. And even Abu Sama, hit some great cuts. But what Hansen does so well is set up blocks, and I just think Iowa State came out and played some really good football at times, and then had a handful of things that didn't go their way, and BYU stabbed us in the heart.
Yeah, Carson Hansen finished with 16 carries, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 9.5 yards a carry, which I haven't looked this up this year, but I'm pretty sure that's the highest any running back has had for Iowa State this year. Iowa Sama 9 carries for 63 yards, 7 yards a carry. If you would have told me that Iowa State won the rushing battle 184 yards to 103 yards, I would have told you they won by 2 scores.
Right.
Bear Bachmeyer was excellent through the air yesterday, which I don't know if any of us saw coming, but let's talk about the defense a little bit. There's been a lot of debate of, does Iowa State switch out of this 3-3-5? With the injuries to Jeremiah Cooper and Jontez Williams, you're out your top 2 corners / defensive backs. I think you could say they're the best players in that entire room.
Yeah.
Where does the defense go from here? Because they seem pretty good in first and second down situations.
Yeah.
But when it gets to 3rd and 7, let's say 3rd and 7 plus, that seems to be where there's these breakdowns. And there was one play that Chris Williams was kind of baffled by. It was BYU's second drive of the game, I believe, when they were backed up in the end zone. They had all those false starts.
Yeah.
And it was 3rd and 20.
Yeah.
And Iowa State had 3 DBs playing 15 yards off the ball. And BYU ran the ball. They got 10 or 12 yards out of it. And what are your overall thoughts on the defense right now?
I would say it this way. I still think the scheme is the right scheme. I think that
I agree.
That's not the issue. I think the issue is that there's not enough experience in that. And, coming into this game, a lot of people talked about how Parker Kingston and is 16. I can't remember that kid's name.
Is that Chase Smith? Is that right?
Yeah.
Chase Roberts. There
you go. Had just been disappearing, reappearing acts, right? Like, here comes your Halloween ghost story, right? And we saw it. They just get open. And, I think when Iowa State played zone, they got open. When Iowa State played man, they got open. So it was I think those two guys are really good, and I think Bachmeier got him the ball in a way that was impressive. I don't, there is a big drop off in terms of the first unit of defensive backs at this point and the second. But we've seen this for Iowa State in the past, right? And one of the things we liked coming into this season was the depth of that back end, because we really felt like that group was going to not have that be an issue. But then you get your two best players hurt, and you're right back where we've been in the past, right? Which is developmental guys having to play developmental football against the 11th ranked team in the country. And, that's just unfortunate. And if your pass rush doesn't get home, and I felt like at times it really was pretty effective yesterday, the pass rush and the blitz package that John Heacock employed when he brought it. The problem is Bachmeier's mobile, right? I mean, he played quarterback and linebacker in high school, played running back and linebacker in high school. Like, the kid can move around. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get him on the ground with just a little, swipe to the calf, right? Like, the guy is going to move around and be able to make throws. And I think those two wide receivers did a really, really good job, especially Kingston. Like, he was great in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we need to thank our friends over at Carbless. Carbless, handcrafted premium cocktails. Bruns, a Wisconsin company. That's your
right,
man, brother.
It's good stuff. Get yourself one. Don't drink it first thing in the morning after a Cyclone loss, or do.
Right. Teach their own.
Yeah. We need to taste victory in next week's game, because there's just a lot still out there for this Iowa State team, and I think we really appreciate Carbo's sponsor. Ryan Harklaw hit on something in the post game that I really could feel through the radio, and that was that guys are hurting in that locker room. This is probably not a territory that has been approached much in Matt Campbell's era, right? I suspect there may be some shaking of the confidence of just like, how do we get this done? How do we accomplish it, right? And that takes me back, and it's nostalgic in some ways, because we dealt with those kinds of things in my seasons, leading up to 2000 with Coach Mack, where you weren't sure how you can fix it, and you couldn't fix it yourself. You all had to fix it together, and how maddening that can be when it just feels like at times you take turns making little itty bitty mistakes that cost you big. And, I think there'll be a lot of guys having that feeling going into the locker room today. And, the only way you get through it is what Matt Campbell said afterwards. Like, we're going to get through this together by going to work and, staying united and doing the things that people don't see us do. And you know what, for any of us watching this, right, anybody listening to this, watching this right now, we have no reason to believe that won't be true inside of this program. Right. So I liked the want to of this football team. I just think that, they're going through a hard time that is different than what we've seen in a while. I mean, criticism toward Rocco about, how he's playing. We're hearing that kind of stuff from folks. It's hard when everybody's got getting held coming out of their breaks, right? Like, you look down the field and there's nothing there. I think BYU had when Iowa State had to throw it and had to, time's running out and all that stuff. And now all of a sudden the blitz package gets pretty exotic. And, there were a couple cases where, one case where 48 just beat, our tackle and got a pressure that led to a sack. But another was a brilliant call Like BYU walks up to the line of scrimmage. They got 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and they blitz the 2 linebackers to the field side of the formation. Iowa State has a conventional protection on. So in a conventional protection, whether it was some sort of a man scheme or a zone scheme, slide scheme, they weren't sliding to the outside gap, right? So, if you are sliding into where the blitz is coming from, which is a call that coaches have to make and kind of get lucky with, you pick it up and it's no problem. But because Iowa State's running something where the tackle's responsible for the first threat as opposed to the outside overhang, Iowa State uses up their offensive line on the 3 inside guys, the defensive end and the defensive tackle on the backside of the formation into the boundary drop out and actually play a zone scheme in that area. So now all of a sudden there's no place to go over there. And the free blitzer gets to Rocco in a hurry, and one of the inside guys finishes him up after Rocco can't throw the hot route. And whether your slide protection, whether you should have slid protection into the field, whether you should have had some sort of a pressure release valve in the route package out on the field side, all of those things can be answers. But the reality is there's only so much time and there's only so many plays that can be installed in a college football season, because these guys have to go to school. They have to go do stuff. In the NFL, the offensive line probably figures out what's going on in advance, or the quarterback does, changes things, and they pick up that blitz. And don't worry about the 2 guys that are zone dog on the backside, right? So it sometimes the other team just makes a good call and they just execute it better than you did. And that's it's as simple as that. I feel like that offensive unit did a lot of things that it could to win the game. I also think the defense got off the field enough for Iowa State to win, but the punt return, was a massive problem, right? Yep. And the pick 6, I don't even hate, right? Like, the kid makes a hell of a play. He just made a great play. Rocco was looking at Burkle that whole way, but he didn't know for sure if he was going to go to Burkle or Chase. They were both there, right? One guy defending two guys coming out of a break in the flat. He just made a hell of a play. Flora, I think he probably thought the pass was going to get picked, and so he's trying to readjust his body to go make a tackle instead of catch it. And, there goes 6 off the board. So yep. This stuff happens, right? But I've been there. I've lived it. I've seen it. I know how hard it is in the locker room. And, if anybody here has any contact with any of these players or their families or the coaches or whatever, do everybody a favor and lift them up and pat them on the back and tell them you understand that, this isn't what they had wanted for the year. We know that, but best wishes and get out there and get after it. Right. Because anything other than that just isn't helpful. When you get outplayed. Yep.
Like you said, you're feeling nostalgic, courtesy of Nostalgia THC Seltzers. Get out to Barntown or go to your local Fairway and pick them up today. You touched on it a little bit, and this was kind of, we talked before the show, this was really the one thing I really wanted to hit on was Matt Campbell's quote to Ryan Harklaw after the game. The world around us want to bitch and whine and make excuses, but we won't. And the only way to get out of it is to work. When we come out on the other side, you better look out. There's a lot of people that I think are becoming sour to this coach speak a little bit. This feels a little different because there hasn't been a lot of times throughout Matt Campbell's tenure where it feels like there's not much to play for anymore. And I'm not saying that at 5-3, Iowa State has nothing to play for, because that's not the truth at all. But when expectations are that high and you fail to meet them by the end of October, I'm still a believer in Matt Campbell through and through. I'm a Matt Campbell guy. I think this team can still turn it around and have a special season.
Well, I agree with you. And, I would characterize it to say there's nothing that it can be done about the last 3 games. Nothing. And we can all feel a way about it. The team can feel a way about it. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is Arizona State. And what can you do there, right? I think that's a physical football team. I think this will be a super interesting game dynamic coming in, especially with the high expectations of the year and then where both these teams are right now. So I'm looking forward to the game because I like watching us play, and I especially like watching us run the football effectively. And we did that this week. And you want to get a win in that situation, but you got to convert in the red zone. Got to,
yep.
Right? You can't let the officials have a judgment call on something, where you're making a hell of a block, but they can flag you for it just because you've got leverage up here instead of down in here, right? Or just arms off, right? At some point. So, I'm looking forward to Saturday. And we'll cheer loud and hope that a whole bunch of other folks show up and do the same.
Did you notice a difference in play calling in the red zone a little bit now that Iowa State has Kyle Conradi back?
I felt like what I did notice was I don't think Iowa State made an attempt to run Rocco Becht in this game. And, as effective as the running game was, all the play action stuff and all the, all of that just works a little bit better if Rocco runs it a little bit. And, that was not part of the current game plan. Whether we were willing to, having Kyle back is like, you got a weapon. I thought that field goal unit did a hell of a job on the 42-yarder. That was a really critical kick, and BYU was bringing some serious pressure, and they just stuffed it. So I thought, I don't know that I saw a difference in play calling in the red zone with him back, but I do think maybe Rocco's thinking to himself, especially after the interception, earlier in the game, hey, I just got to be really careful with this and smart with it and not press too far. But man, Iowa State had all kinds of chances to score, right? Mm-hmm. So you just got to execute, and simple as that, you win the game. We can do it next week.
Yep. Well, we should get to our Wyckoff Heating and Cooling comfort players of the game. We love to work with great Iowa companies on Iowa River, and Wyckoff Heating and Cooling is another great example. Family owned and operated over multiple generations, Wyckoff Heating and Cooling is not part of a national chain or private equity group, like so many other heating and cooling companies that claim to be local. Wyckoff customers have trusted them for generations, and they achieve that by not being full of gimmick or misleading free offers, just straightforward, honest solutions you can trust. For peace of mind on your roof, choose Wyckoff Heating and Cooling. Visit wyckoffcomfort.com. Bruns, who are you going with today?
Well, first I want to start with saying I drove through Wyckoff, Minnesota the other day on the way to my alma mater's 30-year reunion for the 1995 1A state champions, the Denver Cyclones. Shout out to my boys. And I did not know that Wyckoff, Minnesota was a place, but it is. So, the Wyckoffs are kind of like worldwide.
Business is booming. They bought a town, folks.
Right. Carson Hansen, for me, was a huge difference maker in this game. I just think the swivel that he has, the ability that he has to set up blocks, the patience and vision, but then also the burst and the speed, runs with power. I felt like that was the best we've seen Carson Hansen play, and maybe the most number of reps that we've seen him get. And, I would be very comfortable if that guy got ball, like the more he touches the ball, the more I like it. I just think he's got that thing you need as an offensive line to be able to establish consistent drives, because when you've got somebody who can set up blocks behind you, you have the ability then to just to talk about it, like adjust things. Hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's when the next time they do that, I'm going to do this. And these are conversations we have as offensive linemen with our running backs to be able to optimize the next time you run that same thing. And hey, look for this. When you see him do this, I'm going to do this. And now you can do that, right? And I just think that kind of gameplay is happening when he's in. And I think it's I thought it was a pretty special day for him yesterday in the run game for Iowa State.
Yep.
Who you got?
We don't have any rules in the show, so I'm going to go a little outside the box. I'm going with AJ Klein.
All right.
Just because he was inducted into the Iowa State Hall of Fame this weekend, and I know how much it meant to him. That video of him and Jamie Pollard on a video call resurfaced late last week, and you can just see how much it meant to him to be embraced by Iowa State once again. That dude bleeds cardinal and gold. And if you were at the game and saw him on the crank horn, I thought he was going to break it in real time. He was going after it like no one had before. So I'm happy for AJ. I know he had a great weekend and had a lot of people there to celebrate with him. So
Kimberly, Wisconsin. What a great career. What a great career at every level, and his success in the NFL, is absolutely a testament to his drive and work ethic. And, I remember when he first got to campus and started playing, it just like they didn't want to play him as early as they did, but he just kept making plays and getting on the field and over and over and over again. And, turns into this just magical story of being a Cyclone, and he's one of the all-time greats. So, good choice.
Yeah, I like how humble he is too. He always talks about, I was just this kid from Wisconsin that Paul Rhodes took a chance on.
This kid from Wisconsin that won a bunch of state championships, by the way.
Right.
But played in the NFL for a long time. But that, like, he's always had, and I love that about him, right? Like that white belt mentality, and just really, really solid dude. Cool.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, I don't have much left for you, unless quickly we can touch on Rocco Becht here. He had 3 interceptions yesterday. One was a garbage time. Not making excuses, but then you had the tip, and then you had the pick 6 just to round that out. Do you think anything is going on with him, or is this just, a couple unfortunate plays that?
I wouldn't hazard a guess. I will say Rocco, took some major contact a few weeks ago in that Cincinnati game, and who knows how anything like that plays out over the course of somebody's season. I can tell you that as the season went on for me, I played the last third of the Iowa State season in 2000 with a bunch of partially torn ligaments in the top of my foot, and or tendons in the top of my foot. And it's just one of those things that you just go do the best you can. You manage the pain, you manage the reps, and so I wouldn't suppose to say that Rocco's completely 100% healthy and everything's good, or I wouldn't suppose to say there's some sort of problem. I certainly don't think that we have Rocco Becht with a confidence issue or some sort of like mental block, or like, just the guy's a great leader. He's a great player. He can persevere and overcome. He's a champion. And so what's happening right now is emblematic of a moment in time for this football team. It is not, in my opinion, emblematic of, some sort of change in Rocco's capability or performance. I just think BYU kid made a great play. The tip ball, like, when I saw it happen, I was like, and you can't even see it on the video. I watched the TV broadcast. It didn't, they didn't talk about it. Didn't show up like that. But live, real time, it was like the ball all of a sudden lost a ton of velocity and just started hanging outside. And it was like, ooh, that's not good. Not with all that traffic down there. So, Rocco's going to be okay. But I do think that this offense is more effective when there's a threat of him running it a little bit with all the other things that we're doing. And so whatever it takes to do that, I thought Iowa State called a good game. I mean, my goodness, Aiden catches that touchdown, totally different conversation. We don't get the holding call on the score, different conversation. You don't get the tip ball, don't whatever, right? It's just life, and it's not always going to go your way, and you got to pick yourself up off of the mat and keep after it.
Yep. Well, it's going to take a lot to get these guys off of Cyclone football this year. So we will be back next week. Thank you for always tuning in. For Ben Bruns, I'm Aiden Wyatt. Check out Bigger Than 12 later today. Shout out to all of our Channel Seedsmen out there. I know they're wrapping up harvest over these next couple of days. From the Channel Seed Studios, this has been Cyclone Sunday, only on Iowa Everywhere.